The modern day hot hatch is an extraordinary beast. We're talking here about sensible family cars with more than 300 horsepower, brakes and suspension that wouldn't look out of place on a supercar, and more wings than a flock of geese. However, while hugely impressive, the performance of such cars means that for many people, they're simply too expensive to buy and run. Perhaps what's needed is a smaller, lighter, less powerful kind of hot hatch with fewer specialist components to keep costs down. Less of a hot hatch than a warm one. A car just like the Suzuki Swift Sport. Suzuki has been here before, of course. In fact, ever since its first Swift Sport was introduced in 2006, it has epitomised what a warm hatch should be. To expand on that, both the Mark I Swift Sport and the Mark II that followed in 2011 were fizzing, revvy little beasties with handling that was lively enough to lighten your darkest mood. In fact, like all great warm hatches, although they were only modestly powerful, they were also light and small, which in turn meant they felt fast, frantic and fun. This latest model is also light. It weighs just 975 kilograms, and with 140 horsepower, I think it's fair to describe it as modestly powerful too. Plus, as per the warm hatch regulations, it has a few little design flourishes to make it stand out, such as twin exhausts, a rear spoiler, and 17-inch alloy wheels. Inside, you get these sport seats, a flat-bottom steering wheel, lots of red stitching everywhere, and red trim, and even a red rev counter, so it must be sporty. Plus, being the flagship Swift, there's loads of equipment. Things like climate control, sat-nav, and smartphone connectivity come as standard, although it should be pointed out that the Swift Sport is no longer the bargain to buy new that it once was, so I guess it's only fair that such things are included. In fairness to Suzuki, that extra money does also buy you a car that is significantly roomier inside than before and a lot more mature to drive. Now, a big part of that is because they've swapped out the old naturally aspirated 1.6 litre engine for a turbocharged 1.4, which in such a light car means there's loads of low down and mid-range pulling power. This new engine also helps make the Swift Sport more economical in real-world driving, with a genuine 45 miles per gallon within reach. On the downside, this turbocharged engine doesn't have the same razor-sharp throttle response as the old Swift Sport, and it doesn't rev anything like as hard either. In fact, it's all done by 6,000 RPM, whereas in the old Swift Sport, you still had another 1,000 RPM to play with. That said, it's still more than half a second quicker to the 0 to 62 mph sprint at 8.1 seconds, and in gear it'll leave other warm hatches for dust. In line with the more mature engine, the handling also seems to have perhaps a tiny bit more slack to it. Don't get me wrong, this is still a fast car, it still has lots of grip, but the old Swift Sports used to feel like little terriers as they went down the road and were perfectly balanced through the corners. This one just seems to have a little bit more body roll as you first turn, and I'd say perhaps not quite the same harmony to the controls. The upside is that the ride in the Swift Sport is no longer like being on a skateboard bouncing over cobbles. This is now a significantly more comfortable car. So, to get this straight, in making the Swift Sport into a much better day-to-day car, Suzuki has also created a slightly cooler kind of warm hatch. That's not to say it's worse necessarily, just different. The changes are, of course, completely understandable, and to be clear, this thing is still loads faster and a lot more fun than any ordinary city car or super mini. However, if what you're after is the archetypal warm hatch experience, then I'd be inclined to argue that a well cared for example of a Mark II Swift Sport is actually the better buy. Not only are they epic to drive, they are also cheap to run, very reliable, and excellent value for money. Okay, it's time to swap this warm hatch for a warm fire and a cold drink. As ever, please don't forget to subscribe and head to cargurus.co.uk to find a great deal from a top-rated dealer on your next car.